Kalone. This live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125 and also on myjoyonline.com. Coming out this hour, Ministry of Foreign Affairs revises fees and charges. Details as expedited services for the acquisition of passports shot up to 800 Ghana cedis. We'll tell you more. This is from impounding vehicles that cross a red light or without valid insurance certificate. Attorney General tells Inspector General of Police more as private legal practitioner Martin People laws Attorney General for a good move there.
This one is what the Attorney General should be doing. This is what shows that it's an office for the people of Ghana. It's a brilliant move. You know, sweetie, your FM had posted programs on this particular matter. I was part of the panelists. We made it clear that our interpretation of the LI 2180 doesn't say that the police should impound every vehicle once there's a traffic offense.
And the church not exempted from the impact of the erratic power supply. More as the clergy waiting, calling on the government to come clear on the power crisis.
It's not been very good for us, not just even the churches and activities, but even in our homes and our businesses and our offices.
There's many more stories coming up shortly. Please stay. Thank you so much for choosing us. Now, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfred Ibuadame, has advised the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, to direct police officers to desist from impounding vehicles whose drivers engage in misdemeanors. According to Mr. Dame, crossing the red light and driving without a valid insurance certificate are offenses for which the offending vehicles should not be impounded. He said, and I quote, as Attorney General and the principal legal advisor to the government, advised that police officers should desist from the impounding or prohibition of the use of a motor vehicle for minor offenses, such as an alleged violation of any of the rules of the road, contained in Regulation 106 and other provisions pertaining to crossing the red light or driving a vehicle without a valid insurance certificate, among others. And so he says that when he's speaking on Joy News earlier, private legal practitioner and human rights activist Martin People lauded the initiative of the Attorney General, arguing the Attorney General took the right step.
Absolutely. It's about the best decision the Attorney General is taking in recent times. Yesterday on another platform, I was saying these are the kind of initiatives and decisions that are expected from him. Not the kind in the Honorable Nelson Dafiameko case, the case about the Speaker stopping the vetting of the approval of the ministers in Parliament. We don't want that kind of politics. This one is what the Attorney General should be doing. This is what shows that it's an office for the people of Ghana. It's a brilliant move. You know, sweetie, your FM had posted programs on this particular matter. I was part of the panelists. We made it clear that our interpretation of the LI 2180 doesn't say that the police should impound every vehicle once there's a traffic offense. No. So apart from the cameras that the police have at certain vantage or certain strategic traffic lights, if a policeman arrest a person for jumping the red light or driving without license, you can video the vehicle, video the person, and take any other evidence. Then, when the police takes the person through the processes, that's caution statement, etc., then you can let the suspect or accused person go with his vehicle. You don't need to impound it. Sweetie, the truth of the matter is that they often impound the vehicle so that they can use it to extort money from us. That is the modus operandi. Most of it, it's to make sure that eventually you pay money. It doesn't matter, even if you are taken to court and convicted, you still will have to pay money before you get your car back. So this move, if properly implemented, is going to make sure that we'll have better rule of law. I'm sure Ghana will do better. Yesterday, I was also referring to the fact that in terms of rule of law, for the past 7 years, we've not been doing well on the democracy index. Our performance has been declining. And the police is a very huge part of the bribery and corruption story of Ghana. So if this particular measure is implemented well, the police will score very high marks, and eventually that will be Ghana doing better.
Well, wouldn't you say that this, if we start implementing this and letting these, I like to call them recalcitrant drivers go, it would rather open the floodgates for more people to just jump the lights? Because, I mean, the worst you would do is to pay a fine.
Yes, but that is the law. You see, it's a democracy. It's a democracy. What we've agreed is that the punishment in the law usually is payment of a fine and then imprisonment up to 3 months. So in law, these are minor offenses. We can't, sweetie, compare this kind of offense to, let's say, robbery or stealing 1 million Ghana, etc.
Now, the Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, has commenced investigations to determine the whereabouts of a 12-year-old girl who was married off to a 63-year-old traditional leader in Nungwa. There is public outrage over a marriage ceremony between Bobu Wulomo and Na Okromo over the weekend. Now, the minor becomes the customary wife of the 63-year-old man. But this union has been justified by Nungwa Manche King Odaifio Wolenchi.
If we need to perform customary rites in its true sense, and a wife is required for a mankral, wulomo, or chief, it's plain fact that many of the ladies who are of age now are not virgins. Where would you find a virgin in this Nungwa township? If you require one for a customary wife, they are all not virgins.
Now, Chieftaincy Minister Stephen Asamoah Boateng says he is investigating the matter to determine what occasioned the act for a remedial action to be taken.
Early this afternoon, the ceremony took place in Nungwa, involving the Wulomo, a young lady of 12-year-old. My initial report suggested that it was one of those ritual things that the family, and I hear the girl's parents are part of the same family. But I'm still doing a lot more checks through the traditional authorities and the police command on the ground, because we're talking about a minor here, and also trying to reach the family of the 12-year-old girl. It's not clear what actually is happening there, and I want to get to the bottom of it. My information is that a letter was sent from the Wulomo's office to the police that a ceremony was to take place. The letter went, I think, on Friday, which is Good Friday. So it's a public notification given, so it doesn't look like any secret thing. But I want to get to the bottom of it. You know, the chieftaincy institution is a bit complex. The Wulomos are not really within the law in which I operate part of it. And I'm trying to do or suggest amendments that gets all of them involved. The Wulomos, the Asafwaches, the Bushapenis, and because they're all part of the tradition of the country and our culture and our system. But in the meantime, it's outside it. So I have to do a little bit more work to find out this. But I'm concerned that there's a 12-year-old involved. I'm concerned. I want to know where about the girl, right as I speak now, where is she? I want to know her location. Is she with her parents or is she in the Wulomo's house? Where is she? So my ears are on the ground as I speak to you now.
Meanwhile, the act has received widespread condemnation among sections of the public. Executive Director of CharRight International, Bright Appear, has charged the appropriate state institutions to investigate the issue and protect the rights of the child.
Clearly, there is some conflicting outcomes, especially measured against the right of the child. what custom ought to be. So in the minds of the people doing that, they feel that they are fulfilling a customary right. For that matter, they have to uphold their tradition, which of course we agree with them. And we also looked at the picture of the child in all these discussions. We also came to the conclusion that, yes, if it is good for people to fulfill their tradition, they must also measure that against the right of a child, especially where the law prohibits the engagement of a child above the age of 18 years. So the issues of choice, children should not even come in at all, fulfilling that traditional culture that they deem fit and they hold dear to their heart. So for us, we think that offense has been committed, and we expect our laws to work, and we expect the institutions to take up this matter to save the child, because in the fulfillment of this culture, we don't think that children do have a place in the whole discussion. As to whether a child is a virgin or not, it's not a question to just answer on the basis of that. You'd also want to take certain decisions.
Now, the paramount chief of the Sempe, who is also the Mankral of the Ghana state, Ni Adote Otinko II, says the act is despicable and must be condemned by right-thinking members of society.
In my social media, a 12-year-old girl,
the viral video of Bobo Wulomo taking a 12-year-old girl as a customary wife is condemnable and must not be encouraged.
Now, away from the story, the Minister of Education, Dr. Yawose Edochom, has announced that the first batch of 450,000 free student tablets fully funded through the Ghana Education Trust Fund, the GET Fund, will be distributed this week. President Akufo-Addo announced on March 25 the distribution of 1.3 million tablets to public senior high schools and technical and vocational education and training, which is a TVET student. Now, according to him, this initiative under the Smart School project is part of the government's measures to ensure that all sorts of the country or sectors of the country are digitalized. Speaking on Joy News in his file on Saturday, March 30, the Education Minister described how helpful it is for the student. Details of that story later. But moving on, the erratic power supply in the country continues to be a source of worry. The church has not been left out of the impact of the outages. Some eminent members of the clergy have been speaking on the matter on the probe with MFA Apau. Listen to the eminent men make the call to the government to be clear on the real power situation and avoid politicization of the issue.
It's not been very good for us, not just even the churches and activities, but even in our homes and our businesses and our offices. It's not been the best. But we have also not received the best of explanations as to what is happening. And we can't just point to one particular thing that is telling us that this is the situation. And I keep saying, and when I'm asked, I tell them that I think the authorities should come out very clear on it. If it is some challenge they have, then they come out with the load shedding schedules for us. So we know that this is it. At this point, there will be no light. So if I have to get a genset or have to make further arrangements somewhere, then I put in those measures. Rather than say that there's nothing, then you go ahead and all in the middle of an activity, the lights just go off. And as a church, it puts you off. And it takes time to also come back and all of these. And sometimes we should also understand that it is not just for the people gathered in there. These days, because of media, we are life to other people outside and all over. So we are all concerned.
Now, beginning today, the cost of a Ghanaian passport has gone up by over 400%. As the passport office insists, the increment is meant to ensure full cost recovery. JoyNews is learning that Parliament has already approved fees and charges proposed by the Foreign Ministry. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante joins us for more. Kweku, share with us the chronicle of the issue when this first came to the floor of Parliament.
Well, Carlos, in December of this year, specifically 14th December of last year, I should say, Parliament approved estimates for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the 2024 financial year. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Shirley Ayikobochu, was on the floor making a strong demand that the passport application prices must go up. According to her at the time, the average Ghanaian was paying 100 Ghana cedis for the normal 32-page booklet, and it was costing the state 400 Ghana cedis to even print the booklet. It meant that the state was subsidizing the passport application process with 300 Ghana cedis per booklet. That was how much the state was losing. And so she implored Parliament at the time to urgently approve some proposals Parliament had made regarding that the executive government had made regarding an increase in passport application prices. And finally, Parliament saw wisdom in that. And in the last meeting, in fact, the Statutory Legislation Committee of Parliament worked on the regulation, the fees and charges regulation, that will give the Foreign Affairs Ministry the authorization to be able to do so. And because this lawmaking process is slightly different from a bill, which will go through several processes, this one will normally be laid as a paper, and in 21 days, if there are no objections, the regulation will become law. And so within that meeting, the paper was laid, and after 21 days, there was no objection, which would have triggered two-thirds majority to vote on it, to accept it or reject it, and that has since become law. And so the Foreign Affairs Ministry have now decided that as of today, 1st April, they will start the implementation of the passport application price. So, Carlos, if you go trying to apply for a new passport today, or if you try to renew your passport prices, you'll see a whole different prices. For the 32-page booklet, it used to cost 100 Ghana cedis. It will now cost 500 cedis. The 48-page booklet used to cost 200 cedis. It will now cost 644 cedis. For persons who intend to expedite the process, that is, if you are applying for a 32-page booklet, but you want it expedited, you will pay 700 cedis from what used to be 150 Ghana cedis. And for persons who also want to expedite the 48-page application process, will also now pay 800 cedis. So that is more than 400%, or at least 400% increase in the existing price.
All right, Kweku, before you go, we need some clarity. The costs have already reflected on the official website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Does that mean that it has already been officially passed? Let's get some clarity on that.
Yes, in fact, Parliament passed this regulation or approved this regulation within the meeting that just expired on the 20th of March. And the final and the Foreign Affairs Ministry have decided that this will take effect today. And so in fact, they put out a press release today notifying the public that this is something that they are doing. But not only that, if you try to apply for a passport today, or if you try to renew your passport today, this is how much you are going to pay. But as a point of education, for persons who are already applied, but have not received their passport or have not gone to take their biometrics yet, this law does not take into active effect. So the 100 Ghana cedis you paid is what you will continue to retain. But if you try to start the process today, the 400% hike will now apply to you.
Thank you so much. I believe that clarity has been established. We are grateful to you, Kweku Asante, for the details on the story. Now, moving on, in a rallying call for the preservation and recognition of traditional religion, traditionalists and worshippers across the nation have united in a demand for a national holiday to honor their faith. Leaders of this movement, Ngogbia Kofi Davor and Samuel Davor, have passionately spoken on the agency of this matter, urging the government to grant traditional religions the same acknowledgement as Christians and Islam. The traditionalists have also asked the government to at least help in some development works for the first time since all projects have been funded from proceeds. Now, we'll return from the break and give you details of this story. Please stay on. Welcome back. Now, the paramount chief of the Bator traditional area and vice president of the Volta Regional House of Chiefs says the victims of the flooding incident caused by the spillage of the Akosombo and Kpong dams are yet to recover from the effect. Togwega Patamia Jekle VII said the magnitude of the devastation caused in 32 communities in his area was so huge it would take some time and great effort to restore normalcy. He said this when the chiefs and people of Klefe traditional area donated some relief items to victims in the Mepe and Bato traditional areas.
The paramount chief of the Klefe traditional area, Togbe Koku Jaga XI, led a delegation to support residents who were affected by the spillage of the Akosombo and Kpong dams. They presented bags of cereals, thrift, water, among others. The Mankalalu of Mepe traditional area, Togbe Kosinego VI, blamed the authorities for the devastation caused.
June ojebe no abu agbo ka hie le vava kwa na hie na wa no juju ve ava trole amuome alo apuome sega ke otu agbo va do ko va le vovo be agbo la va mui e ka fi over da selection ova nya tefe no mi ameyo mi potefe powe mi von ale gbegbe mi bube e se la va cho mi okata akojwe se akemawo didi mi te de mi vi okata mi ameshisho mi do okata le shieme emi ko va ekpoji.
The paramount chief of Bato traditional area, Togbegan Patamia Jekale VII, said that victims in his area are yet to recover from the effects of the flood.
If I tell you that Bato suffered a great deal, you may not believe it. Mr. Petigo, total number of communities affected, was it not 32? 32. Our people have not fully recovered from the effect of the flooding.
Togbe Koku Jaga XI lamented the unfortunate incident of the flooding and advised VRA to engineer mechanisms to better manage spillage of the Akosombo and Kpong dams in the future.
Dam many chokeva yo tu anmo experience melosio. Danemi le nugre jikpo feblaton ko ye. Anu ke joko metonna minyanu ke tututu ke jota obazuleo. E ya meto be doda si onyu. Ben no potieji nanu ibe mega jo ko gale jo medele fetu ko enya yi dan vire ta onya be chele yoyo da nu sueto kwa wa tan ko adojifo na me wa e ya nyebe afi ihe no ke gbanatwe ape o le banu ba puchi fete sirika no na minya be mi ato aso no chome.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Mepe.
We go back to our earlier story where the Minister of Education, Dr. Iyao Seiduchum, has announced that the first batch of 450,000 free student tablets fully funded through the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, will be distributed this week. President Akufo-Addo announced on March 25 the distribution of 1.3 million tablets to public senior high school and technical and vocational education and training TVET students. According to him, this initiative under the Smart School project is part of the government's measures to ensure that all sectors of the country are digitalized. Speaking on JoyNews' News File on Saturday, March 30, the Education Minister described how helpful it is for the students.
So the deployment is such that it's in phases.
So you do it in 3 phases that you cover for this?
Yes, okay. But the first phase, which is hitting the regions and the schools in the next coming week, is going to 30 schools.
Okay.
32 schools in the 16 regions. And that one is the first one that is going out. So once you get to the school, there's a dashboard that informs us that the tablets are here. The whole idea is to ensure that you do a phased approach to deployment and don't get the system overwhelmed. And once you get the first 32 schools done, within a week, 2 weeks thereafter, the rest, which is phase 2, also starts moving. to the schools, so that the teachers are being trained. In fact, some have been trained. The 32 schools, they've all been trained.
Right. And I understand the unit price is about 250 Ghana cedis. So that will bring us to about 50 Ghana.
No, not 50. Not cedis.
Is it dollars?
Yes.
And in that case, the 112, million, all of it together will bring us to 337 million Ghana cedis that you are investing into this. You already have issues with free SHS, and you need to pump money to resolve the teething issues, and you are adding onto that.
You see, the interesting thing about free senior high school, you see, you can have logistical challenges, and that's not a budget issue. In the case of the tablet, it's wholly funded by government. No participation from parents or from students. And we have made a budgetary allocation through the GET Fund for the first 450,000 that has come out, that has been delivered to us, ready for deployment in our schools. So that
is what we have on the desk here.
Yeah, this is an example of what they call the schoolmate.
Yes.
Student mate one.
Student mate one.
Yeah. So this is what we have here. I think we showed one.
Okay.
Yeah. This is it comes with a keyboard.
All right.
So even though it's a tablet, when you take out the keyboard, it makes it function.
I get it.
Yeah, as a laptop.
So you just fix it here, and then you type from here. But you can also use this.
Yes, right. Itself.
Okay.
And then you have the power bank that comes with it. And there's also an opportunity in case lights go out.
Right. Because that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
For places
panel,
where there's problem with electricity.
There's a solar panel that allows you to charge it using solar. In the case of this device. So that is in response to the issue of maybe erratic power supplies at certain times.
Is this part of your attempt to do away with fiscal textbooks and so on?
Yes, in fact, the interesting thing is that all high school textbooks, and there's a new curriculum for high school that's coming. Because of the STEM, there are so many new courses. Manufacturing, for example, manufacturing engineering is a new course, and we have people writing the textbooks now for high school. So every one of these will come up with all the textbooks needed by the particular student. So if you're a general art student, all the textbooks that you need will be here. And the interesting thing is that it's not going to be a PDF version of the book. It's an ebook. So there are hyperlinks in it. So if it's your history class and you're talking about the Egyptian pyramids, you can hit a link that will give you the video of Egyptian pyramids and some understanding of what it is and what it stands for. So
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the business segment on JoyNews Today with me, Pius Kojo Baka. The National Petroleum Authority will from today be setting the floor for pricing of petroleum products for each pricing window. By this, no oil marketing company should price below the benchmark. My colleague George Yafe tells us more.
This was captured in amended guidelines for pricing of petroleum products released by the National Petroleum Authority in a letter dated March 27, 2024 to all the industry players. The guidelines showed at the beginning of each pricing window, the regulator will come out with the floor or benchmark prices for each product, thus as part of measures to try and check pricing undercutting the industry. The new guideline will now require the oil marketing companies to submit their actual prices that they will be displaying on their board at the service station to the National Petroleum Authority a day before, instead of the previous regime where they were sending the indicative prices. The industry regulator maintained it will conduct regular price monitoring exercises at retail outlets to ensure that all the players are complying. The oil marketing companies are also required to visibly display the price for all types of petroleum products sold at a retail outlet on their price billboards. The petroleum services providers by various reviews can now change their price every day. However, they are required to notify the National Petroleum Authority a day before. In the past, the advertised price at the service station of oil marketing companies should be the same for all its outlets throughout the country. However, based on these new guidelines, a dealer is now allowed to give a discount of 2% to the price that has been submitted by its oil marketing company. The amendment to the pricing guidelines for the petroleum products showed the oil marketing companies could be fined from 5,000 to 20,000 for violating specific guidelines from today. According to the National Petroleum Authority, it will not hesitate to sanction any of the players for failing to comply with these new directives.
Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Abina Moa, is projecting a minimal impact of the 2024 elections on the activities of the Ghana Stock Exchange. According to her, a free, fair and peaceful election is a conduit for sustainable development of the economy.
We are hopeful, like all Ghanaians, that our record of having a peaceful, free and fair election will continue. And so we call on all of us, we are all patriotic citizens, that we all work together, our political parties, nationals, all of us here, ensure that we get free, fair, and peaceful elections. We are going on the 100% assumption that that's what happens. And if that's what happens, we expect almost no impact in terms of activity on the market. We will all keep our jobs. Our companies will continue to produce. Our banks will operate. Our telecom sector will operate. People will be making calls. And the companies listed on the exchange will continue to meet their obligations, and investors would invest. And so in terms of the elections themselves, I think as we've seen in 2016, in the year 2012, and all the other election cycles, we have not seen any negative impact just because there's an election in Ghana, and we expect that to continue this year.
And that's it for business for now. I am Pius Kojo Baka. The news continues right after this break.
Let's bring you sports now on Joy News Today with me, Muftaru Nabila Abdullahi. 2012 silver medalist in the African Games, John Mpoma, has called on Ghanaian media to throw some light on field events instead of just focusing on track events. According to him, many Ghanaian talents are hidden because they do not have an idea that there are disciplines known as hammer throw, discus, or even javelin.
So, yes, that is. I think it's not just javelin, but all the other field events. It's not a very known kind of. People are not used to.
There are some events. I mentioned steeplechase and some of what is steeplechase?
Yeah, what is steeplechase? So I think it starts with the media. People get to know. No, I'm not. I'm actually saying that to be able to kind of draw people's attention that track and field is not about running.
Yeah.
It starts with education, and once in a while you're going to have the John Mpomas, and others who come up and then draw people's attention, and they will be like, oh, so javelin is also part of athletics, right? But if you Fent, Sadiq Adams, Kevin, Yao Fosu, Benghazi, mention names. They, if you guys begin to talk about, just a segment and just talk about every event under track and field, one by one, I think that is where the people are going to be like, and potentially also project some Ghanaians who have succeeded in that field. Then that really draw people's attention, because people watch. You guys have a lot of viewers, and you guys are so powerful. And I think that is where people are going to begin to realize, oh, okay, there's a sport called javelin or shot put or discus. Hammer throw. There's so much potential in this country, but everybody want to run. I started as a runner because I didn't know what javelin was. It was until I got to high school that my coach saw me and said, you are big, you can throw, just like that. And that is how it began. But if we can project some of this stuff and the kids are seeing it and they say, okay, maybe I'm not fast like Joseph Polamo or Benjamin Zamati, but I can throw, I don't have to run a lot to throw the javelin. I can do just 20 meters and throw the javelin.
That's your sports for now. We do have more sports stories on myjoyonline.com.
So we have in this hour, you can log on to myjoyonline.com for more stories. My name is Carlos Caloni. Enjoy your holiday. Bye-bye.